And let me start off by again indicating that I'm really honored to have been appointed this morning as the new president of SARA, and also happy to be joined as my VP, Mr. Matabel, who we already have quite a long established relationship in trying to initiate some of the work that is also highly supported by SARA, which talks to collaboration or better collaboration on all of the corridors on which we actually operate. SARA, as I'm sure you all know, is an association of railway companies and other stakeholders in the SADC region. And we come together to try and ensure that we promote and continue to lobby for rail transportation mainly, and in appreciating equally the importance of rail in ensuring that we rebuild our economies within the continent. And we do appreciate and understand that we have a major role to play as the rail entities in contributing to the recovery of our respective countries, but we equally understand that we're never going to be able to do it on our own, and that we would need to actually do it by working more and more closely with each other in actually finding solutions for all of the challenges that we face. And the challenges across all of the railways in SADC are not dissimilar in nature. I think our biggest challenge that continues to face us is the state of the infrastructure, which we would need to ensure that we provide some level of focus in order to allow us to truly benefit from moving all of the key commodities that we have in the region as fast and as cheaply as possible to the ports, to the benefit of our country. So there's a lot of work that we need to do in respect to the infrastructure side of the rail industry. We equally acknowledge that we're not going to be able to do it on our own, that we need to come together and try and find solutions jointly to try and improve the effective movement, as I've already indicated. There are already green shoots in terms of some of the things that have already been undertaken to date, and those that we continue to work on as the respective railway operators. But we equally acknowledge that there is still a lot of work that is ahead of us. And I really just want to then just end off in appreciating that we were able to be joined by our Minister of Public Enterprises, Minister Pravin Gordhan, this morning. And I really wanted just to pick up on some of the things that he also indicated in his opening or welcome address, where he talked about the requirement for us to have seamless movement across our borders. And in fact, I think when we were engaging in our opening dinner last night as the Railway Association, we were saying actually ultimately it would be great if the rail operations were borderless, because that's how we would be able to achieve true maximum value for our respective countries. And again, just to quote the Minister, in his opening address, he also shared with us that it is his belief that together we are a lot more powerful than would ever be able to be if we were trying to approach some of the challenges that we're facing individually. But as SARA, we're excited because year on year, we begin to build closer and closer ties with each other. We are that much more excited that we are now even able to meet face to face, because we have been continuing to try and engage on certain opportunities that we believe we should be focusing on, but doing so virtually, which has been a useful way of communicating and trying to plan. But we definitely believe that now that we have the ability to meet face to face, it will help us all to ensure that we can facilitate faster implementation of all of the projects that are currently underway.
When you mentioned about the seamless service, is what we really are working on, and we believe that the concept of removing the borders will make all of us more competitive and meet the expectation of our clients. So in principle, I can say we are really in the same track, doing what we feel that will benefit all of the countries and our economies. Thank you.
Okay, so firstly, congratulations. Secondly, harmonization within the region. What are the immediate projects that are on the plans that both yourself and TFR can push nice and hard for?
Okay, so now, thank you for that. I won't respond on TFR's behalf. I'm not sitting here as a TFR representative, but as I must get used to this, president of SARA. It sounds really weird. Yeah. So I think that if we need an additional comment from TFR, they can then, they are here, and they can actually respond to that in terms of harmonization and how I believe that there are a number of key projects that we need to focusing on. The North-South Corridor is definitely, in my view, got to be our key project in terms of finalizing going forward. And why is that, for me, there are a number of things that are already currently underway, but what's very clear is that we do need to do a lot more work in terms of the infrastructure in order to be able to move a lot more and a lot more efficiently. At the moment, in terms of the state of the condition of our infrastructure on that corridor, we're not all at the same level. So what that does is that it actually slows down the movement of freight, and I'm going to speak more on the freight side as opposed to FNG, but it slows down the movement of freight, because when we get to to the borders, we then have to what's the not technical term, not uncouple. So we could start off with 40 wagons, we get to the border, we need to move across with only 20 wagons, you move to another border and you're moving less and less and less, which really does not actually help the system to be as efficient as it should be. And my view is that we've previously taken a view that it is each one's responsibility to take care of their own infrastructure to facilitate that. I think there's a lot more we can do jointly in appreciating that those of us who may have the technical know-how can come to the party and provide that as a contribution. It's not only funding. Yes, funding is the biggest challenge, but it's not only funding that we should allow to hold us back in the work that we need to do. And there are examples of things that we've begun to do. You would have heard earlier on, from the gentleman who was representing the CEO and the past president of SARA, CEO of Transnet, mentioned that there's already collaboration between TFR and Transnet at the moment, and the collaboration is purely in providing technical, support, technical advice on things that they can actually focus on to improve the efficiency of the system. And I think that's what we need to be focusing on, even in respect to the North-South corridor, which is a critical corridor to benefit most of the people that are part of SARA.
Over and above the North-South corridor at regional level, obviously the North-South corridor is like a pilot project, or is a pilot project, which is to give us insights in terms of how we can better our operations. We are now at a stage within the North-South corridor where we have identified low-hanging fruits in terms of what projects we can immediately implement as a region on that corridor, on the North-South corridor, particularly the Durban-Beitbridge corridor. And we are also coming up with a technical team of all those involved in the North-South corridor to to ensure that we harmonize our marketing, our planning, our train design, and so forth and so forth. But the second and more important overall, which will cover all other corridors, is the regional railway master plan. 2 weeks ago, we were hosting, we meaning SADC and SARA Secretariat, we were hosting the African Development Bank team, which was here to finalize the funding arrangements for the development of that master plan. You might be aware that apart from national level master plans on railways, we have never had a regional master plan to really guide the region in terms of where to go as a region on the development and increasing the rail market share, taking away some of the heavy cargo from road to rail. The only master plan which was done at regional level was by Cecil John Rhodes a long time ago. But we have developed in silos, South Africa doing their own, Namibia doing their own, Zimbabwe doing their own, Zambia, and so forth and so forth. But now we want to integrate all these issues like Cecil John Rhodes did some years ago. We are now at a point of finalizing the funding arrangements with the African Development Bank, which will also immediately ensure that we engage consultants to undertake the study. The study specifically, one of the specific deliverables of the study is to identify tangible projects which can be immediately implemented in the region to benefit the regional railways. So I thought I should just add that. And the second addition I want to make is the domestication by member states, SADC member states, of the SADC-SARA safety standards. These were developed in order to guide the region in terms of how we can operate safely as a region. A number of member states have since adopted or domesticated those standards. Domestication basically means going to our different bureau of standards and making those standards as if they are national standards. If we take South Africa, Botswana, Angola, and so forth, they've already adopted those standards. And we're encouraging all other members at member states level, at government level, to ensure that domestication is done. Of course, the first country to domesticate was Zimbabwe, maybe because the SARA Secretariat is in Harare, Zimbabwe. Thank you very much. You can go to your second question. Okay.
Hello, Philippa. So, if you take the triangle of inclusive development, there's policy, there's enablers, and then there's commercial. The SADC protocol on transportation, communication, and meteorology was adopted by the regional governments in 1986. It places at its core harmonization. But what the President and ED have spoken about is a lot of the harmonization we're doing between rails, which is what SARA is mainly about. But harmonization in transport and logistics is not about rails. It's about the entire transport and logistics system. So the enablers, being the railways, is who you're talking to today. But there's a big part that needs to make this work, and that's the lenders and the commercial business. The region still does not have a regional fleet of containers. As an example, we rely on international containers. The railways cannot solve that problem. Your question was, what are the railways doing? Which is an absolutely important question. And TFR as a railway, together with all the other railways in the region through SARA, need to answer that question. But the real question to increasing that 13% intra-regional growth to the 60% in the EU that the minister used as an example is what are we doing as a business community? What are the messages that you put out there? What is the response from private business? What is the response from lenders? What is the response from suppliers who are also now part of the SARA community, in addition to what the railways are doing? The railways cannot solve the commercial aspect of harmonization.
I don't know if SARA still has their joint, they call them JOCs, joint operation or joint command centers. Would that not be like the perfect vehicle to put in that kind of hub, the African containers, the intermodal, the private investment, or World Bank money to kind of feed into that?
The regional integration and efficiency in railway operations, of course, is the monitoring agent, is the corridor management groups who are established within SARA structures for each corridor, over and above the joint operating centers that you are referring to. The corridor management groups do have chairpersons who work very closely with the SARA Secretariat, together with the what we call SARA satellite offices or coordinators who are stationed in different railways across the region to ensure that whatever we do is harmonized. Everyone has information, everyone meaning the railway operators themselves, the customers who are the owners of the cargo. We are to ensure that all play a role in the movement of traffic and in the efficient delivery of the service. So yes, we do have the corridor management groups, but the project that I talked about, which is the railway regional railway master plan, one of its objectives as well is to look at how to best come up with the best structure that will ensure that corridor operations are optimized. Because as SARA, we can no longer operate at national level. Like the president was saying, it will be better not to have borders at all for railway operations. Because currently what is happening, the train will move from South Africa all the way to Messina Bay Bridge, and then it will be handed over to Zimbabwe. And that handing over process disturbs the entire operations. Just to give an example of one corridor. Even with the corridor management groups that we have, but the project that I talked about will also give us advice in terms of how to best deal with that issue. Thank you.
Will the master plan be ready this year, next year?
The master plan is intended to take roughly maximum of 8 months in terms of the studies, in terms of identification of projects and programs that are implementable, and in terms of identifying funding for the execution of such projects and programs. And we expect the first fruits to be realized within 8 months, but that is from the time of final approval by the African Development Fund Board of Directors of the funding program that they have given to us, which is expected in July.